So welcome back. If you're just joining us, then this is Amelia Brooke of ABCBsolutions.com, and Amelia has done a previous interview with us where she has gone into CV fundamentals. So all the things you need to think about before you even start tapping the keyboard in your CV together. So I would urge you to watch that after this if you haven't yet. So in this section, Amelia and I are going to be talking about CVs for the construction industry, for engineering, for trades and so on, and having a look at how they might differ from just a general CV. And with Amelia's background in recruitment, we're going to maybe get a few little tips on how to put yourself in the best position to get noticed by recruiters and employers. So once again, before we start, I'm going to ask you just to tell us a little bit about who you are, Amelia.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Paula. My name is Amelia Brooke. I run ABCB Solutions. We provide professional CV LinkedIn, CV writing, LinkedIn optimization, cover letters, and social media management for candidates in the engineering and technical sphere. We look after everyone from graduates all the way through to project managers, VPs, and CEOs. The approach, although similar, is very different in the fact that every client we have is unique. Their ambitions are unique and their past career history is unique. And we pull those elements together to write a document and create documents online and offline, which help them project what they want to be doing next and how they can add value to an employer.
So there's lots of good advice in the previous video about taking some time out to look at job ads in detail, collect what you call a master document, so that you have pages of really useful information that you can use to help you piece together a CV. So for those within those technical construction industries, what specific advice would you have for them?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to all industries, particularly engineering, construction, they're so broad. So for example, take construction industry. You could be constructing a housing development, or you could be constructing a nuclear power plant. All very, very different. However, each subsector of construction or engineering has their own keywords. Now, the importance of keywords cannot be understated for two reasons. Keywords allow the reader to identify what skills, attributes, qualifications you have to do the job. It's also vitally important to include keywords in your CV, LinkedIn profile, and any other marketing documents, because you need to get through the application tracking software or application scanning software, which is getting smarter and smarter by the day. So when I'm referring to keywords, I'm looking at words, for example, if you're in project management, we might be looking at the different phases of projects. So you might be concept, design, execute. For example, you may have acronyms like EPC or B2B or BAC, for example. So depending on what your role is, whether it's technical, administrative, commercial, you'll know what those acronyms mean. And if you're finding them inside the job descriptions, inside the vacancy advertisements, then it's important to include those keywords in your CV at the top half, which I mentioned in the previous video is prime real estate. Allow the reader to realize that you are part of that world. You understand those acronyms and you've included them accordingly. Now, if you're looking to change industries, it's very important to take away those acronyms or expand them. So expanding them is one solution, but if you're going for something completely different, then think about removing them and replacing them with context so the reader actually understands what it is you've done. My next tip for engineering construction is please don't assume that the reader knows who your employer is. It's a huge world out there. So while I'm not telling you to waste space selling the company, the CV is there to sell you. What I am suggesting is just put in a couple of words that advise the reader who the company are, perhaps where they're ranked in terms of market dominance, what their revenue is, what their major projects are, if they're involved in anything high profile, just pop it in. So straight away, the reader can match you to the caliber of companies that you've worked for before.
And it reflects on you if it's high profile or, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The next thing I would suggest is look at the key requirements of the role through the job descriptions. But remember, don't copy and paste a job description to the CV. I would say 7 out of 10 CVs I get to work with, the original document contains a cut and paste of a job description. And there's an old saying, you're never going to beat the competition if you copy them. So the job description is a high level description of what it is you're responsible for doing. It's not what you've done. So it's important to go back and think about your contribution to the company. So for each position, what I'd like for you to do is just include some information about the dimension and scope of your role, the function, perhaps your reporting line. Maybe you have a team that you look after, the team size, and what your major deliverables are. And then from that information, I want you to emphasize your positive work outcomes, not your day-to-day duties. If you're a senior mechanical engineer, then there's already an assumption that you understand mechanical engineering and you're able to fill the role duties. But let's talk about what you've done in your previous role. You can include dates, percentages, numbers, the before and afters, for example. You can mention any awards, promotions, or rankings. If you're a project manager, you can talk about delivery on time to schedule. If you've accelerated the schedule, include all that sort of information on there. Don't assume the reader knows what you've done. It's effectively the reputation you've left behind for each company, as opposed to the duties that you filled. There is a difference. The next thing I'd say for construction, engineering, technical CVs is include knowledge of standards and industry codes. This is one that's missed a lot. And again, not all job descriptions are created equal. So while some job descriptions may not mention specific codes, if you've gone and done your research and you've looked at many, many roles of the same nature and you've created a master document containing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different jobs, eventually you're going to see the industry codes. Now, a lot of these are across the board, for example, ISO standards, but there will be ones unique to each industry. If you still can't find them on those job descriptions, have a look at the company website under the quality section. There you'll find things like BOSIET certificates, you'll find the occupational health and safety, you'll find the CSCS cards or job cards for construction site people, maybe safety passports, medical certificates, things like that. Make sure you've got them on there. With construction as well, you've got the CDM regulations and API regulations. Again, it's specific to each role, but it's something that people do leave off. Leaving it off, basically, you're missing out on a chance to differentiate yourself from the other candidates. It shows that you really are in tune with your industry. And just like the industry codes and standards, think about your certifications, which I think I just mentioned before. I've merged the two. Every industry, you can't even set foot into some construction sites without key certifications and medical certificates. Please make sure these are included on the CV if they're relevant to the position. If you've held these certifications or licenses in the past and they've expired, but they are relevant to the role you're applying for, just simply list them so they appear on your CV, because they will be a keyword, and just put in brackets to be renewed. Okay, so it just shows that you've had those skills in your past, you've had those certifications, you just need to update them. And an employer will recognize those right away. Finally, include technologies and heavy equipment. There's not a lot of jobs out there that don't incorporate some sort of technology these days, whether it be software or otherwise. So if you're in project controls, talk about the planning software you use. Perhaps you're involved in design work, so SolidWorks, AutoCAD, list them out. Another tip though is if you don't have the specific software program listed in the job description relevant to the role that you're applying for, but you have knowledge of a similar program, list that similar program. So for example, if you're in procurement or supply chain, you may mention Ariba SAP is a program used by contract and procurement people. But if the company is looking for, say, Amiga experience, what you can put in your CV is proficiency in SAP's Ariba program, and in brackets, similar to Amiga. And
Okay.
straight away, the reader is able to identify that, yes, you've got the software skills relevant to that role, may not in that particular program, but the chances are they're all so similar, it won't take long for you to pick up and run with it. And it's something that you can talk about in the interview as well. They may send you on a half-day training course or whatnot. And finally, please don't stress if you haven't got a degree. With trades, with construction roles, quite often people have come up the ranks through on-the-job training. You'll see on job descriptions more often than not the wish list, which may include a degree. However, it's very important to recognize your skills and years of experience. So in that case, if you've completed an apprenticeship, put that apprenticeship detail on there. It doesn't matter how long ago you completed it. Put the details of the apprenticeship on there. Put on there any City and Guilds certification that you've achieved. Again, if they're out of date, perhaps consider enrolling to get refreshed, but list them on there anyway. Now, if you have no qualifications formally whatsoever, I want you to think about workshops, seminars, industry events that you've attended that are relevant to the position that you're applying for. Now is a perfect time, I guess a silver lining to where we sit with the lockdown and whatnot is so many of these events are happening online. They're virtual. So I recommend getting on Google or other search engine and just searching to see what industry specific online events are happening right now and get yourself attending. That way you can easily add those to your CV under continued professional development, as opposed to education if you're missing that. So fundamentally, at the end of the day, your CV is very much about selling yourself in a competitive market, informing the reader of who you are, what differentiates you, and how well you know your industry on all the levels other than just the functional level of, say, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, civil engineer, and so forth. So for those hunting out there right now, I do sincerely wish you all the very best and stick with it. Perseverance is so key right now. But if there's any other information, I'll be happy to talk it through on another session.
That's brilliant. Yeah, lots of really, really helpful information there. Thank you, Amelia.
You're welcome.
All Amelia's contact details are obviously below the video. Thank you.